Dark Myth WuKong. Chapter 13. Fighting. At this moment, the celestial palace was a scene of earth-shattering chaos. Originally, it was Sun WuKong and his two brothers against the four celestial emperors. However, as soon as the two sides clashed, Sha Wujing inexplicably retreated to the rear and sat down cross-legged. As a result, only Sun WuKong and Zhu Bajie were left to fight the four emperors, making the battle extremely fierce. Sun WuKong fared relatively well, relying on his indestructible Vajra body to brawl with the Jade Emperor and the Evergreen Emperor. All three sustained injuries, but Zhu Bajie was in a completely different situation. Although Zhu Bajie's magic power was now comparable to Sun WuKong's, his ability to utilize it was significantly weaker. He only possessed brute strength, and he couldn't even land a hit. This caused poor old Pigsy to suffer greatly. Fortunately, Sun WuKong would occasionally break away to help him out. However, as time passed, Zhu Bajie was left with nothing but being beaten. Fortunately, Zhu Bajie had thick skin and flesh, so despite taking a lot of damage, he wasn't seriously injured. But it was clear he couldn't last much longer. As time went on, the disadvantage in the battle shifted towards Sun WuKong's side.
Sha, are you done yet? If you don't hurry, your second senior brother will be gone.
In desperation, Zhu Bajie couldn't help but turn his head and urge Sha Wujing. But this very turn of his head gave the Xuanwu Emperor and the Ziwei Emperor an opening. They seized the opportunity to unleash a powerful combined attack, pouring it all onto Zhu Bajie. Instantly, Bajie was sent flying backward. However, after delivering this blow, the two emperors didn't stop. Instead, they gathered even more powerful magic, intending to deliver a fatal blow to Zhu Bajie. Sha Wujing witnessed all of this. His eyes flashed with ferocity, and he was about to interrupt the magic he had been preparing since the beginning.
Lao Sha continue. I'll save the idiot.
Before his voice faded, Sun WuKong suddenly threw out his golden hooped rod, pushing back the entangled Jade Emperor and Evergreen Emperor. Then, he rushed towards the flying Zhu Bajie. Then, boom! An overwhelming force of destruction erupted. Looking at the ground, a bottomless pit suddenly appeared before everyone's eyes. You must understand, this was the Jade Emperor's usual place for court sessions, the Celestial Palace. This was the entire face of the Heavenly Court, and the Jade Emperor had put a lot of effort into this face. All the buildings were made of extremely high-quality jade, and countless large and small formations were inscribed on them. Moreover, these formations were accumulated by the Jade Emperor over thousands of years. Otherwise, such a grand battle wouldn't have been set here. Even so, a dark, gaping hole was blasted open. One could imagine how powerful that attack from the Ziwei Emperor and the Xuanwu Emperor was. The force borrowed from the stars even caused all the stars in the heavenly court to dim. The four emperors cautiously approached the edge of the pit, looking at each other. They all wanted to know what had happened to Sun WuKong, but none of them dared to go down. Sun WuKong's iron bones were famous. None of them were sure if he was really injured. In the end, the four decided to launch another combined attack. Even if Sun WuKong wasn't injured by the previous attack, he definitely couldn't escape this one. So, the four emperors gathered their power, preparing for a four-emperor combined attack. Just then, a beast-like roar came from the depths of the pit. This roar was filled with endless fury and self-blame. It stunned the four emperors for a moment. During this brief pause, a black shadow shot out from the pit. The four emperors immediately regained their senses and looked over. They were overjoyed. It turned out Sun WuKong was injured. Zhu Bajie carried Sun WuKong, one arm draped over Sha Wujing's shoulder. Although they didn't know the extent of the injuries, the bloodstains on his back indicated they weren't light. Moreover, Zhu Bajie was also covered in wounds, many of which were still bleeding.
You are too much. Just because I old Pigsy am slow, right? Bullying me is one thing, but even injuring my senior brother. Do you really think we brothers are pushovers?
Zhu Bajie's face was covered in blood, and he looked extremely ferocious.
Today, I'll let you know. Pigs aren't that easy to bully.
With that, he waved his hand, and the nine-toothed rake flew into his grip.
Nine-toothed rake, unite.
With a roar, the nine-toothed rake pulsed like a heartbeat, referencing Iron Crush Fang's transformation. And then it actually dissolved and merged into Zhu Bajie's body. Zhu Bajie's entire body was enveloped in the radiance that only top-tier magic treasures possessed.
Zhu Bajie's life-risking move. Number 1, devouring.
Sha Wujing was so shocked that his mouth hung open. He thought to himself, when did second senior brother learn this move? Despite his shock, Sha Wujing still anxiously glanced at his senior brother, who was leaning against a pillar in the corner. But this glance made him freeze for a moment. Wait, did senior brother just wink at me? He only does that when he's about to tease second senior brother. Sure enough, right after Zhu Bajie charged forward ferociously, Sun WuKong, to Sha Wujing's astonishment, casually stood up. He gave Sha Wujing a wicked grin and then sat back down.
Lao Sha, how much longer will you need?
Sun WuKong watched the lightning-fast Zhu Bajie battle the 4 celestial emperors while picking his ear with his pinky. It's almost done. Senior brother, is second senior brother all right? How did he become so fast? Sha Wujing tore his gaze away and timidly asked.
Don't worry, don't worry. This idiot fused with the divine power contained within Pangu's eyebrow, but this idiot didn't know how to use it. He only had the power, but could only be beaten. So, I had to do this, to provoke his anger. I only expected him to fight back a few times, but who knew this idiot had such tricks up his sleeve? Tisk, this speed is even faster than my somersault cloud.
Sun WuKong said, not forgetting to flick the earwax he dug out towards the Jade Emperor. Then, he shook his head and sighed.
Too bad. I missed.
He was talking about the earwax. How did second senior brother's rake merge into his body?
I don't know either. This idiot gets really fierce when he's angry. Looks like I can't casually pinch his pig ears anymore.
As soon as he finished speaking, Sha Wujing, sitting beside him, suddenly shouted, Senior brother, dodge. Second senior brother's coming. Sun WuKong immediately jumped up and dodged to the side. Zhu Bajie also took a moment to turn his head. What he saw first wasn't Sha Wujing, but Sun WuKong grinning at him. Although Zhu Bajie was a bit slow-witted, he instantly realized he'd been tricked.
You damned monkey, you tricked me again. I'm not done with you.
His fists clenched, space was violently compressed, and then he clasped his hands together, creating a wall similar to a spatial rift. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he turned and appeared next to Sun WuKong. The nine-toothed rake reappeared in his hands, and he pretended to claw at Sun WuKong.
Idiot, stop fooling around and protect Lao Sha.
I'll settle the score with you later. All you do is trick me all day.
Before they could finish speaking, they felt a violent tremor, and then they saw all the doors of the celestial palace swing open. Then, a raging torrent of the Milky Way rushed in through the open doors. In an instant, the entire celestial palace was flooded. Sun WuKong and Zhu Bajie were already standing behind Sha Wujing, and the 3 of them watched the 4 emperors struggling in the flood with sinister expressions, pointing and commenting.
Lao Sha, do you think the Jade Emperor doesn't know how to swim? Why isn't he coming up?
Hey, senior brother? That's not right. How could the Jade Emperor not know how to swim? It's just that there's something wrong with this water, Sha Wujing said, blushing and looking embarrassed. Just as the 3 of them were enjoying the show, a white shadow swam out of the water, and then a remarkably handsome youth appeared before them. Little White Dragon finally appeared. Senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, Toror do Coreo. I'm back.
Haha, Little White Dragon, you've done a great job this time. Lao Sha's Liusha River water, plus the weak water you brought, and Lao Ju's heavy Milky Way water. Ha ha! This time, we'll turn the heavenly court into a vast ocean.
Sun Wukong patted Little White Dragon's shoulder and said, "At this point, I believe everyone understands, right? The reason Little White Dragon hadn't appeared before was that he used his innate ability to swim against the current, infiltrated the underworld, Ashura realm, and used his magic power to guide the weak water of the Ashura Sea along his dragon body. This was to signal Sha Wujing. Sha Wujing used his magic power in the celestial palace to guide and locate Little White Dragon. Then, Little White Dragon opened up the Waishui River, and the weak water flowed up from the Waishui River, merging into the Milky Way water from below. And then the Milky Way water merged with the Liusha River water. Finally, the three types of water combined to form the nine heavens' deathly water. As mentioned earlier, Sha Wujing was once the curtain-rolling general, so when they first attacked the heavenly court, Sha Wujing took advantage of the opportunity when the heavenly court's forces were deployed elsewhere and opened all the doors he could open. The consequence of this action was that when the nine heavens' deathly water poured out from the Milky Way, it swept through the entire heavenly court. Whether it was the immortals' abodes or the palaces, everything was submerged by the flood. Moreover, this water wasn't ordinary water. It was not only extremely heavy, but also lacked buoyancy. But these weren't the most terrifying aspects. The most terrifying aspect was the water's corrosive power. Everything it touched was slowly corroded away. One can imagine the despair of the returning heavenly soldiers and generals when they discovered that the heavenly court was gone, and all that remained was a vast ocean. Sha Wujing, who seemed harmless in the eyes of outsiders, had brought about an apocalyptic disaster to the heavenly court at a crucial moment. And at this moment, Sha Wujing was still shyly asking Zhu Bajie if he wanted to bring in the water from the Tongtian River as well. And what did Zhu Bajie say? After a sly smile, he said,
"That's not appropriate, is it? I think we should take down the Guang'an Palace instead. Then we'll have an ice age."